3 years have come and gone, boys. It's time to take aim at the next time sink in our lives, diving right into Destiny 2. As a day one player, I take pride in experiencing all the things that Destiny had to offer, and the things that it did. So let's get into the beta. I'm NoSleeves12, and this is Destiny 2, the beta review. Holy smokes, I'm Dr. Seuss with that opening. So let's see what the beta had to offer. I've played, like I said, I've played thousands of hours of Destiny 1. I'm an average gamer across the board when it comes to Destiny. So this is going to be more for the casual players and the guys that, don't go in depth, and scour the missions and the strikes and all the PvP mechanics and whatnot. So if that's you, then this kind of stuff is for you. So let's discuss the mission, Homecoming. From a storytelling perspective, this has me really excited. It looks better across the board from all other missions that Destiny 1 had to offer. From a pure storytelling standpoint, let's think in a little bit easier terms. There's an actual enemy that it introduces right off the start. So Gary, the new Cabal leader that's coming in to take the Traveler and our light. We actually have an enemy we can hate. In Destiny 1, it was such an introduction to the entire game, to the lore of Destiny that they were trying to make, and it created a kind of a convoluted story where you had to introduce the Fallen, the Cabal, the Vex, and the Hive, right? And with that, because the game wasn't extremely large, all of those factions, their stories were lost in the Grimoire, and that isn't in the game. And and even if you read the Grimoire as like an average or casual player, it's extremely difficult to understand. So from a storytelling standpoint, it's very basic in Destiny 2 with this mission, where there actually is an enemy off the start that you can hate. From the cutscenes and the animations and whatnot, definitely the best that Destiny has done. The interactions with Cade and Zavala and Ikora, all badass. So that's fantastic. The character interaction, like I said, with Cade, or when you actually get into the middle of the tower, and it's a great scene where it's somewhere that you've always been throughout Destiny 1, and it's all blown up, and then they actually introduce other Guardians into the game, where you have the randomness and you're fighting alongside someone. That's a sick touch. And like I said, as well as with Zavala in the bubble and whatnot. We never got any of that stuff in Destiny 1, really, and it makes you care about the characters more when you get to have missions where you're playing with them and you get to see their strengths and weaknesses. But the biggest downfall, again, that Reddit and other things have taken aim at as well, is that our character not talking. I really, really hope that is, they had to have this mission ready for E3. So this mission has been done for a long time. So that's not to say things haven't changed. I'm going to go over that, other things that have changed since this beta build a little bit later, but I'm hoping that the rest of our story, we actually hear our character talk. It's very hard to get invested into a story with a protagonist that is silent. And our ghost is awesome, and the interactions your ghost has seemingly with himself still is awesome. But if we're not getting any actual words spoken by our guardian, I really don't know how Destiny's going to create a compelling story from our end. Obviously, the enemies and the story of the Cabal is going to be great, but without our character talking, you're not really going to care about your own guardian that much. Alright guys, let's move over to the PvP that came with the Destiny 2 beta. We're going to start with Quick Play, which featured Control on Endless Veil. The Control playlist played a lot like Zone Control. Essentially, it was a lot more dialed back scoring. And it was 4v4, which is the biggest change from Destiny 1 to 2. You guys all know that. It felt correct. 3v3 is a lot less interaction with the opponent. 4v4 is obviously more, but on this map it's a little bit smaller, and you're never without interaction with the enemy, really. It's very difficult to go 30 seconds without seeing an enemy, which I think is extremely well done. Now this map is symmetrical. the most part. So it was nice to see Destiny actually have symmetrical maps. It is key for competitive, no matter what FPS game there is. So this map did play pretty well. B was an awesome choke point, just like it should have been, which was nice. Now the problem is that's obviously has been spoken about has been the super regeneration with grenades and melees. There was obviously some problems where if you're struggling in PvP, you might not even get your super in a match, which I think is. I really doubt that that's going to come with Destiny 1 when the full game launches. Now, I don't know if it's explained later that maybe because your light's taken in the story that the PvP isn't affected because you're just getting your supers less in Destiny 2, which might make sense, but I really doubt that that's how it's going to be in Destiny 2 PvP. My honest guess would be that this is just the Destiny 2 beta build. When we get armor and things like that, when the game comes out, it's going to be completely nullified, and super regen will be a lot better. Now, I don't think it'll be as crazy spam as Destiny 1 is, which I think is a good thing, and I think that's what they're trying to do here is find a balance. This focused on gun battles a lot more, which some disagree with because they think that it's all because Destiny's tailoring to the end game or the MLG kind of competitive scene, which I disagree with. I think that they're just trying to change the game up a little bit. Movement was really dumbed down in this. I felt really slow. I made a Titan in PvP, and yeah, Titan skating shouldn't have been in Destiny 1, but obviously going to Destiny 2, it's a big change, which is something I'll get used to. But yeah, the jumps just felt really slow, which is fine, but it's just something I noticed. Now, one of the bigger complaints I have about it is I don't know if that a perk on some guns or armor is going to allow this to come back, but the scoping and unscoping to check your radar, they've pretty much taken that out of the game because there's about a half second or a second delay for when you aim in, when you aim down sights, so you can see your radar. So it's kind of taken the, if you watch streamers or other guys like that, good PvP players, they live on their radar, and what they'll do is they'll aim down sights and quickly let go of L2 so they can check their radar really quick. You can't do that in this. There's a big time delay. Not like 5 seconds, but it's a second. It's enough where you can't do it consistently, and that was probably the hardest adjustment I had going into the beta for Destiny 2. Supers as a whole, I tried all the classes. The roaming supers, especially the Sentinel, awesome, really cool that they have the Sentinel Titan, but it felt really sluggish. Now, obviously, you're not just gonna mash R1 to do the the slash essentially with the shield, but it felt really hard to close the gap because you didn't have any speed. So if someone saw you and ran away, either you're throwing that shield, which is badass by the way, and if they miss, then you've wasted a lot of your super, but it's really hard to close the gap. The Dawn Blade is probably the coolest, but again, to be super effective with it, you're jumping way up in the air, and anyone knows that PvP, you jump flying in the middle of the map in the air, and you're just waiting to get picked off. And then the Arc Strider, really cool. Like one of the coolest supers for sure that Destiny has come out with. That one was a little bit better, but again, the gap control seemed a little slow, which made it tough. The abilities, by holding down circle, the towering wall from the Titan is way too OP, I think, to start, and the fact that you get it so often as opposed to the Hunter's dodge, I really like how all of the classes, as opposed from other than the super, every class gets. So the dodge, instead of it just being like Night Stalker, all the hunter classes will have dodge, and same with Titan. Instead of just being if you're a striker, you can hold down circle and get the towering wall, which is sick. I love that because it makes the class as a whole better. So that's something to look forward to in the Destiny 2 in Destiny 2 at launch. Alright guys, let's discuss the competitive game mode that came in the Destiny 2 beta. So this would be Countdown on the map Midtown. Map itself was very good. It's not asymmetrical, but for this game mode it works very well. There's 2 charge points that you have to attack or defend each round. I did enjoy the fact that you had to be kind of intelligent about where you sent people or where you went. If all four went to one and the other team, attacking team, went to the other one, then they've got an obvious charge point, and then they have map control, which I did like. So you kind of have to split up who's going where. So that was fun from a strategic standpoint. Now, I didn't like that you could eliminate the enemy team to win the round. Obviously, I understand why, but I wish that you actually had to arm the charge each round. So instead of it being a revive timer of like 30 seconds, which is a little long, there's a 10-second 10-second respawn timer. So even if the entire team dies, the match continues, because it's too much like elimination. I found that 9 times out of 10, my team was just murdering the other team, or vice versa. There was no charge involved. Now, if you set the charge, there is a set timer, and it's very slow to disarm it. So even if you all die and you've armed it and it's gone on long enough, you're still going to win. But again, I find that it is too much like elimination. So I hope that either I don't see revives being taken out of it. Maybe the revive timer is a little lessened. I think that would be much more beneficial to this game mode in particular. Same problem as the other game mode. You get your super once essentially in the entire game, but I'm not concerned with that at all. I think that Destiny will address that come the main game. Lastly, guys, let's discuss the Strike Inverted Spire that came in the Destiny 2 beta. Comparing it to Destiny 1, I would think the best strike that Destiny has made. Now again, they've obviously had years to put this in for the very first one that we're going to get a taste of, so this might be the best one in Destiny 2, but it hit on a lot of elements that Destiny 1 doesn't. From a story standpoint, it made a lot of sense. Now, I'm going to go in depth about what the story implications are in something a little bit later, but basically you have the Cabal trying to steal a Vex weapon that they found, and the Vex weapon that they found is the end boss of the strike, so you're obviously trying to neutralize it, which is very cool. Now, in the actual boss fight, the floor disappears, and there's 3 sections to the boss fight, which in Destiny 2 or Destiny 1 there isn't a lot of. It's usually just shoot. Now, the boss itself doesn't really have any mechanics other than when he stomps the floor in the second part, and you kind of have to jump and avoid it. But because we were so low leveled armored and whatnot, it was kind of challenging. Like, you run out of ammo quite quickly. Now, power ammo is a big problem because you just don't get much of it at all, so you don't really get to test out like the grenade launcher and things like that. But that has been addressed by Bungie, that will be fixed come launch, and that actual certain enemy types will drop power ammo, which I wish was in Destiny 1. If you think back to the Crota fight, how much more of an advantage would it have been had, instead of having to wait for heavy synths, the knights that you killed just dropped heavy ammo. So that is a great change. From like actual mechanics involving the strike, the drill portion of it is very cool. Again, it keeps you moving, it keeps you having to pay attention to the screen. It's not one that you can just sleep through like most of the other Destiny 1 strikes, so it does have me quite excited going into the main game. So guys, that all being said, the beta was relatively short when you compare it to Destiny 1, but the problem with Destiny 1 is that half the game was in the beta, so when the game came out, unfortunately, that was pretty much it, and we all know how that went for the next 3 years. The story was garbage because we'd already done it. We had to replay the first basically half of the game with the entire Earth being done. So that was a downfall in Destiny 1 beta that I think that they were trying to avoid in this one. This is short, sweet, gets players that haven't maybe played Destiny 1 in quite some time re-interested for the next month, and obviously gets you stoked with just a little taste of Destiny 2 and each portion of it. It showed the new cinematics and story mission, the new strike system, as well as 2 new PvP modes. Without giving too much away, I think that they did a very good job of it. If there's a rating system for a beta, I would say it's a 7.5 out of 10. The only problems being, obviously, that it was a beta build, and we didn't really get to try our supers out, and the power ammo and the strike kind of killed the fact that we can't use our go-to weapons for that. But again, those are all being fixed come the actual launch of the game. So guys, one other thing I do want to mention is I am starting a podcast with 2 of my friends that are in-depth in PvE and PvP separately, and I think it's going to be very good because I can hit on all aspects of Destiny, the game. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that, be sure to follow my channel, and it's going to be on my YouTube, and I'm going to be posting that more than likely every Thursday. It's going to be weekly, and I'd love some feedback for it. That being said, be sure to hit me up on Twitter at NoSleevesGaming, as well on Twitch, www.twitch.tv/NoSleeves12. I'm going to stream weekends. Destiny is also, I also do another game as well, but Destiny will be a prominent role in my Twitch and YouTube life here. So again, guys, just sub to those channels, and I'd really, really appreciate it. So I'm NoSleeves12. You guys stay average.
North, south, east, or west, everybody know our name. And if your dad is gone, but your mama's home, we can bring you in.